Poetry Project. My name is Arlo. I'm the Wednesday night coordinator here. I'd like to thank Stacy, Szymaszek, the director of the Poetry Project, for organizing this event, as well as City Lights for co-presenting with us and for publishing this expanded 50-year anniversary edition of Frank O'Hara's Lunch Poems. So a few announcements before we begin. City Lights editor Greg Ruggiero is here in the audience, live tweeting and also taking pictures. So we're asking that everyone who's also posting pictures use the hashtag lunchpoems so we can all enjoy the public documentation from the reading. I'd like to read a special message from Maureen O'Hara, Frank's sister and executor of his estate. These are Maureen's words. I hope that everyone will delight in the new edition of Frank's Lunch Poems. The correspondence between Lawrence and Frank is great. Frank was just 33 when he wrote to Lawrence in 1959 and 38 when Lunch Poems was published. So amazing. I was 22 after college in 1959 and came to New York. I was very close to Frank always. I lived and worked near Frank until after he died. The fact that City Lights keeps Frank's Lunch Poems in print all these years has been extraordinary, wonderful, and a constant comfort. Keeping Frank's books in print has been a constant focus and goal. Hooray for independent publishers, independent bookstores. Many thanks always to Lawrence Ferlinghetti and everyone at City Lights. Many thanks to everyone at the Poetry Project and each of the poets for creating this very special reading in celebration of Frank's Lunch Poems. So about the way the evening's going to run, each poet will come up here and then introduce the next reader, and there is taped to the podium the order, so you can just find the following readers' names there. I will store a copy of the book in there in case you don't have yours on the readers. And there's water over here at the podium for the readers, and if you need the bathrooms, they're in the back and also upstairs on the second floor. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for being here, and enjoy the night. And I'm going to introduce the wonderful Erica Hunt.
Twitter, before all those things, Frank O'Hara made use of a spare half hour or so. Music. If I rest for a moment near the equestrian, pausing for a liver sausage sandwich in the Mayflower shop, that angel seems to be leading the horse in the bird doors. And I am naked as a tablecloth, my nerves humming. Close to the fear of war and the stars which have disappeared, I have in my hands only 35 cents. It's so meaningless to eat. And gusts of water spray over the basins of leaves like the hammers of a glass pianoforte. If I seem to you to have lavender lips under the leaves of the world, I must tighten my belt. It's like a locomotive on the march, the season of distress and clarity, and my door is open to the evenings of midwinter's light falling snow over the newspapers. Clasp me in your handkerchief like a tear trembling over the afternoon. In the foggy autumn, as they're putting up the Christmas trees on Park Avenue, I shall see my daydreams walking by with dogs in blankets. To some use before all those colored lights come on. But no more fountains, and no more rain, and the stores stay open terribly late.
Sharon Mesmer. Arlo. Est-elle armée? Auprès des blues déclinatelles comme les fleurs feuilleuses tremblent. 1. The sun, perhaps 3 of them, one black, one red, you know, and her dancing all the time, fanning the purple sky, getting purple, her fancy white skin quite unoriental to the dirty children's round eyes, standing in circles, munching muffins, the cockroaches like nuggets half hid in the brain. Boy, how are you, Prester John? The smile of the river, so searching, so enameled. 2. What mention of the king? The spinning wheel still turns, the apples rot to the singing, Alceste on winter sojourns is nice at Nice. Wander, my dear sacred pontiff, do dare to murder minutely and ponder what is the bloody affair inside the heart of the weak dancer, one whose toe is worth inestimable, the game, the cheek of it, it's too dear, her birth amidst the acorns with nails stuck through them by passionate parents, castanets. Caucasian tales, their prodigality proportionate. Sacred Heart, oh heart so sick, make Detroit more wholly thine, all with greaves and scabs so thick that Judas Priest must make a sign. Thus he to bed and we to rise, and Alma singing like a loon, her dancing toenails in her eyes, her pa was dead on the river Gaboon. 3. Detroit was founded on the great near waterways next to Canada, which was friendly and immediately gained for herself the appellation the Detroit of the Thermopylae, a name which has stuck to this day wherever ballroom dancing is held in proper esteem. Let me remind you of that great wrist movement, the enjambment schizophrène, a particularly satisfying variation of which may be made by adding a little tomato paste. Great success. While in Detroit accused of starting the Chicago fire, millions of roses from Russians. Alma had come a long way. She opened the jewelry shop. Her name became a household word. She'd invented an arch supporter. How often she thought of her father, the castle, the kitchen garden, the hollyhocks, and the mill stream beyond curving gently as a parenthesis. Many a bitter tear was shed by her on the boards of this theater as she pondered the inscrutable meagerness of divine providence, always humming, always shifting a little, never missing a beat. She guessed it one season at the height of her nostalgia with the Metropolitan Opera Ballet in Salongo. Her father seemed very close in all that oriental splendor of bamboo and hotel palms and stale sweat and bracelets and engagement of tears. In the snow, in her white fox fur wraps, how more beautiful than Mary Garden. 4. Onward to the west, where I came from, where I'm going, Indian country, go. Oh, say, can you see Alma, the darling of them? All her friends were artists. They alone have memories. They alone love flowers. They alone give parties and die. Poor Alma, they alone. She died. And it was as if all the jewels in the world had heaved a sigh. The seismograph at Fort answered for once a spiritual note. How like a sliver in her own short, fat, muscular foot. She loved the Western world, though there are some who say she isn't really dead. Vit Bakaitis.
Yes, I can confirm that was Sharon. And my heart is in my hand. 4th edition, 1968. On Rachmaninoff's birthday. Quick, a last poem before I go. Off my rocker, oh Rachmaninoff, Onset, Massachusetts. Is it the Fig Newton playing the horn? Thundering windows of hell, will your tubes ever break into powder? Oh, my palace. Oh. I thought I knew it by heart. Oh, my palace of oranges, jump shots, staples, umber, basalt. I'm a child again when I was really miserable, a grope pizzicato, my pocket, a rhinestone, yo-yo, carpenter's pencil, amethyst, typo, campaign button. Is the room full of smoke? Shit on a soup, let it burn, so it's back. You'll never be mentally sober.
Poem. I watched an armory combing its bronze bricks, and in the sky there were glistening rails of milk. Where had the swan gone, the one with the lame back? Now mounting the steps, I enter my new home full of gray radiators and glass ashtrays full of wool. Against the winter, I must get a samovar embroidered with basil leaves and Ukrainian mottos to the distant sound of winds, painfully anti-wind. A little bit of blue summer air will come back as the steam chuckles in the monster's steamy attack, and I'll be happy here and happy there, full of tea and tears. I don't suppose I'll ever get to Italy, but I have the terrible tundra at least. My new home will be full of wood, roots, and the like, while I pace in a turtleneck sweater, repairing my bike. I watch the Palisades shivering in the snow of my face, which had grown preternaturally pure. Once I destroyed a man's idea of himself to have him. If I'd had a samovar then, I'd have made him tea and his hyacinth grow from a pot. He would love me in my charming room full of tea cozies full of dirt, which is why I must travel to collect the leaves. Oh, my enormous piano, you are not like being outdoors, though it is cold and you are made of fire and wood. I lift your lid and mountains return that I am good. The stars blink like a hairnet that was dropped on a seat and now is lying in the alley behind the theater where my play is echoed by dying voices. I am really a woodcarver, and my words are love, which willfully parades in its room, refusing to move. Next we have Jacqueline.
On the way to San Diego. The black ginkgos snarl their way up. The moon growls at each blinking window. The apartment houses climb deafeningly into the purple. A bat hisses northwards. The perilous steps lead to a grate. Suddenly the heat is bearable. The cross-eyed dog scratches a warm patch of pavement. His right front leg is maimed in the shape of a V. There's no trace of his nails. On the street, a woman cajoles. She's very old and dirty. She whistles her filthy hope that it will rain tonight. Fifth Avenue bus trunk lumbers sideways, is full of fat people who cough, as at a movie they eat each other's dandruff in the flickering glare. The moon passes into clouds, so hurt by the streetlights of your glance, oh my heart, the act of love is also passing like a subway bison through the paper-littered arches of the express tracks. The sailor sobers, he feeds pennies to the peanut machines. Though others are in the night far away, lips upon a dusty armpit, the nostrils are full of tears. High fidelity reposed in a box, a hand on the window pane, the sweet calm, the violin strings tie a young man's hair, the bright black eyes pinned far away in their smarted curiosity. Yes, you are foolish smoking. The bars are for rabbits who wish to outlive the men. Next is Guillermo Feliz Castro.
Hello. May I say that it looks gorgeous tonight? I'm going to read 2 poems from the O'Hara Monogatari. 1. My love is coming in glass, the blood of the Berrigans. Saxophone or cornet, qu'importe. Green of glass flowers down the Kentucky. And always the same handkerchief at the same nose of damask. Turning up my extravagant collar, tossing my scarf about my neck, the Baudelaire of Kyoto's never-ending pureness. Is he cracked in here? 2. After a long trip to the shrine, in wooden clogs so hard on the muscles, the tea is bitter and the breasts are hard. So much terrace for one evening. There is no longer no ocean. I don't see the ocean under my stilts as I walk along, hands on ankles, feet on wrists, naked in thought, like a whip made from the sheerest stockings. The radio is on, the cigarettes puffed upon, by the pleasures of rolling in a bog, some call the Milky Way, in far-fetched occidental lands above the trees, where dwell the amusing skulls. Next up is Philip Marino.
A step away from them. It's my lunch hour, so I go for a walk among the hum-colored cabs. First, down the sidewalk, where laborers feed their dirty, glistening torsos sandwiches and Coca-Cola with yellow helmets on. They protect them from falling bricks, I guess. Then onto the avenue, where skirts are flipping above heels and blow up over grates. The sun is hot, but the cabs stir up the air. I look at bargains and wristwatches. There are cats playing in sawdust. On to Times Square, where the sign blows smoke above my head, and higher the waterfall pours lightly. A Negro stands in a doorway with a toothpick, languors and agitated. A blonde chorus girl clicks. He smiles and rubs his chin. Everything suddenly honks. It is 12:40 to Thursday. Neon in daylight is a great pleasure, as Edwin Denby would write, as are light bulbs in daylight. I stop for a cheeseburger at Juliet's Corner. Giulietta Massina, wife of Federico Fellini, e bella attrice, and chocolate malted. A lady in Fox's on such a day puts her poodle in a cab. There are several Puerto Ricans on the avenue today, which makes it beautiful and warm. First, Bunny died, then John Latouche, then Jackson Pollock. But is the earth as full as life was full of them? And one has eaten and one walks past the magazines with the nudes and the posters for Bullfight and the Manhattan Storage Warehouse, which they'll soon tear down. I used to think they had the Armory show there. A glass of papaya juice and back to work. My heart is in my pocket. It is poems by Pierre Riverdin. tree. Leanne Brown.
I dedicate this sonnet-ish length O'Hara poem to my dad, who's here tonight. Cambridge. It is still raining, and the yellow green cotton fruit looks silly around the window, giving out on winter trees, with only 3 drab leaves left. The hot plate works. It is the sole heat on earth, and instant coffee. I put on my warm corduroy pants, a heavy maroon sweater, and wrap myself in my old maroon bathrobe. Just like Pasternak in Marburg, they say Italy and France are colder, but I'm sure that Germany is at least as cold as this. And lacking the master's inspiration, I may freeze to death before I can get out into the white rain. I could have left the window closed last night, but that's where health comes from. His breath from the Urals, drawing into flame like a forgotten cigarette. Burn! This is not negligible, being poetic and not feeble, since it's sponsored by the greatest living Russian poet at incalculable cost. Across the street there is a house, under construction, abandoned to the rain. Secretly, I shall go to work on it. This will be well.
Poem. Instant coffee with slightly sour cream in it, and a phone call to the beyond, which doesn't seem to be coming any nearer. Ah, Daddy, I wouldn't stay drunk many days. On the poetry of a new friend, my life held precariously in the seeing hands of others, their and my impossibilities. Is this love? Now that the first love has finally died, where there were no impossibilities? John Godfrey Smith.
You know, everybody, produces that directs and edits all his own poems.
The poem is dedicated to Norman Bloom, the painter who was a friend and drinking friend. It's called 3 Years. Feedback on this. 3 years to Norman Bloom. So many things in the air: soot, elephant balls, a Chinese cloud which is entirely collapsed, a cat swung by its tail, and the senses of the dead which are banging about inside my tired red eyes. 2. In the deeps there is a little bird. It only hums. It hums of fortitude and temperance. It is managing a foundry. How firmly it must grasp things, tear them out of the slime, and then, alas, it mischievously drops them into the cauldron of hideousness. There is already a sunset naming the poplars, which see only watering themselves. 3. Oh, to be an angel is the word, and go straight up into the sky and look around and then come down. Not to be covered with steel and aluminum, leeringly ugly in the pure distances and clattering and buckling, wheezing, but to be part of the treetops and the blueness invisible, the iridescent darknesses beyond, silent, listening to the air, becoming no air, becoming air again. Edwin Torres.
Image of the Buddha teaching. and to tell you how powerfully affected we in India have been by Germany's philosophy, traditions, and mythology, though our lucidity and our concentration on archetypes puts us in a class by ourselves.
We're in this world of storm and stress.
5,000 years of Indian art. Just think of it all. Essen. Is this a calmer region of thought?
A reflection of the mind through the ages.
Max Muller. Primus into Paris among indologists. Remember our Bible. Mokshamuna. I rejoice in the fact of 900 exhibits. I deeply appreciate filling the gaps, oh, Herr Dr. Heinrich Kutz, and the research purring onward in Pakistan and Ceylon and Afghanistan, soapstone, terracotta Indus, terracotta Moria, terracotta Sunga, terracotta Andhra, terracotta fragments, famous Balut, Stupa, Kashuna, Gandhara, Gupta, Hindu, and Jain, Sikho, Ahanta. Vida Hugel. Anglo-German trade will prosper by Swansea Manheim. Friendship. Waning. The West Wall by virtue of 2 rolls per capita. And the flagship Berlin. The flagship Berlin is joining its white fleet on the Rhine. Though better schools and model cars are waning, still go on Essen. Nataraja dances on the dwarf. And unlike their fathers, Germany's high school pupils love mathematics. Which is hopeful of new delay in chapter. I don't think. Stacy.
You don't refuse to breathe, do you? Someone comes along with a very bad character. He seems attractive. Is he really? Yes, very. He's attractive as his character is bad. It is, yes. That's what you think of in the city. Run your finger across your no-moss mind. That's not a thought, that's soot. And you take a lot of dirt off someone. Is the character less bad? No, it improves. It improves constantly. You don't refuse to breathe, do you? Patricia Spears-Jones.
All right, no pressure here, okay? The day Lady died. It is 12:20 in New York on Friday, 3 days after Bastille Day. Yes, it is 1959, and I go get a shoe shine because I will get off the 419 in East Hampton at 7:15, and then go straight to dinner, and I don't know the people who will feed me. I walk up the muddy street beginning to sun and have a hamburger and a Malton and buy an ugly New World writing to see what the poets in Ghana are doing these days. I go on to the bank and Miss Stillwagon, first name Linda I once heard, doesn't even look up my balance for once in her life. And in the Golden Griffin, I get a little Verlaine for Patsy with drawings by Bernard. Although I do think of Hesiod Trans, Richmond Lattimore, or Brendan Mahan's new play, or La Bacone, or La Miguel, or Genet. I stick with Verlaine. After practically going to sleep with quandariness. And from Mike, I just stroll into the Park Lane liquor store and ask for a bottle of Strega, and then I go back where I came from to 6th Avenue. And the tobacconist in the Ziegfeld Theater, and casually asked for a carton of goulash and a carton of picayunes and a New York Post with her face on it. And I'm sweating a lot by now, and thinking of leaning on the John door in the 5 spot while she whispered a song to Mel Waldron and everyone, and I stopped breathing.
If the finger had designed us to shit just once a week, all week long we get fatter and fatter, and then on Sunday morning while everyone's in church, Bruce Andrews.
Is coming on the right day. The cool, graced light is pushed off, the enormous glass piers by hard wind, and everything is tossing, hurrying on up. This country has everything but politesse, a Puerto Rican cab driver says. And 5 different girls I see look like Petey Gimble with her blonde hair tossing too. As she looked when I pushed her little daughter on the swing on the lawn, it was also windy. Last night, we went to a movie and came out. Ionesco is greater than Beckett, Vincent said. That's what I think. Blueberry blintzes, and Khrushchev was probably being carped at in Washington. No politesse. Vincent tells me about his mother's trip to Sweden. Hans tells us about his father's life in Sweden. It sounds like Grace Hardigan's painting Sweden. So I go into bed, names drift through my head, Purgatorio, Orchado, Gerhard Schwartz, and Gaspar Gonzalez, all unknown figures of the early morning as I go to work. Where does the evil of the year go? When September takes New York and turns it into ozone stalagmites, deposits of light. So I get back up, make coffee, and read Francois Villon. His life so dark. New York seems blinding, and my tie is blowing up the street. I wish it would blow off. Though it is cold and somewhat warms my neck. As the train bears Khrushchev onto Pennsylvania Station, and the light seems to be eternal, and joy seems to be inexorable, I am fooled enough always to find it in wind. 1959. This book came out when I was a junior in high school, and for the next two readers, I think we're two of the only, maybe two or three of the people on the bill tonight who actually knew Frank O'Hara. First up, Tony Towle.
As I mentioned to Stacy, used to be a scholarly and a spoil sport at the same time. Nobody had copies of this book, including Frank, until January, February 1965. Neither do it.